In today's video, we're going to be attempting to beat Cuphead using only the Lobber. Upon starting the game, we immediately encounter a big issue, which is that in order to damage bosses, we need to collect 8 coins. Because the Lobber costs 4, and it is only available in the shop after purchasing another shot. We can't get the coin from the tutorial because we can't shoot this target, but we can get the 3 coins from Mac. However, we are going to go and immediately spin these on the smoke bomb. This is because it will make pacifisting treetop trouble significantly easier. Normally, in order to do this, you would need to tank 2 hits, but the smoke bomb reduces this requirement to 1 by allowing you to phase through this log. This means that we need to climb all the way from the bottom to the top of the tree, taking no more than 1 hit of damage while also collecting all of the coins. I could have saved the coins from Mac and done this with no charms, but this would mean that I'd have to climb all the way to the top of the tree, taking 0 hits. Or I could have done Forest Follies, which has no required hits, but I find that level much harder, and the coins from Mac don't really matter because we can replace them after completing this. Now that we've constructed this staircase, we can complete Mausoleum 1 normally, which gives us access to the DLC. Once here, we can talk to Mac 2.0 to replace the 3 coins we lost, giving us enough to buy Lobber. We can now damage bosses, but I wanted to go all out and collect all of the charms before facing any bosses. This is now possible because we can complete both tutorials to get 1 coin from each. As well as this secret coin from aisle 4. Then we can complete Forest Follies using the Lobber. We can also collect all 11 coins from the King's Leap. If you didn't know, the King will not kick you out after you defeat a boss if you beat it in a low number of attempts, which I believe is around 5. With all of this, we almost have enough to collect every charm. Now we're ready for some actual bosses, the first of which is Goopy Legrand. Using Lobber isn't at all different from something like Spread. I accidentally left Miss Chalice on for this fight, but it worked out completely fine. After that, we have the Root Pack, another boss that is no different with Lobber than another shot, with the exception that it's a bit harder to deal with the carrots during the 3rd phase. However, after this we have the first boss I was actually worried about, Ribby and Croaks. This is the hardest Isle 1 boss in my opinion, so I decided to go all out on my first attempt by equipping the Twin Heart. This is a super underrated charm in my opinion. It only reduces your damage by 10%, and in exchange you get a 66% health increase. Losing 10% damage in exchange for being able to take 2 additional hits is such a worthwhile deal in my opinion, even when you consider the fact that you're not gaining any special ability like you do with other charms. The last World 1 boss is Cagney Carnation, and the only difference is that you now have to stand on the first platform to hit the boss, which doesn't really change the fight that much. Now that we've completed Isle 1, we gain access to the secret coin, which gives us enough to accomplish our goal of buying every charm, even though I never used this one. Baroness von Bonbon is next, and after resetting to the candy ball twice in a row, I got my act together and beat her on the next attempt. Also, I managed to complete the parry 4 times quest after defeating the boss, which was kind of funny. Next we've got Beppe the Clown, who isn't that different with Lobber. I play the horse phase the same way I do with Spread, where I just hide under the horse when the train isn't going by. After that mess, I complete the last phase completely normally. Next we have Grim Matchstick, who is probably the only boss in the game where Lobber is your best option. However, Phase 3 is still Phase 3, so it is quite difficult, and drags on for quite a while. Next, we have Rumor Honeybottoms, who was way easier than I was expecting. The only hard part is this first phase, where you have to shoot down at the police officer. But the other 2 phases function completely normally. A boss that doesn't function completely normally is Captain Brinybeard. The only way to hit him is by standing right next to the ship while shooting upright. However, whenever he pulls out the squid, you're forced to retreat because you have no time to react to the balls from that close. And once the ship starts shooting cannonballs and he starts summoning, the fight gets really chaotic. Phase 2 is also really problematic because you can't hit the tongue thing during the laser beam attack, so you're forced to slowly chip away at it during the ball shooting attack. After that tragedy, I managed to beat Sally's stage play on my second attempt. Using Lobber isn't that different from using Spread on this fight. Next we have Werner Werman, another boss that Lobber is actually fairly well suited for. I struggled with parries a lot in the first phase for some reason, but the rest of the fight is a breeze. This boss's death marks the start of the final 3 bosses, and I have to admit, up to this point, I was fairly disappointed in the difficulty of this challenge and thought I'd be able to get it done in one recording session. But then I moved on to the Phantom Express, and oh boy, where do I even begin? If you count each one of this boss's phases as an individual boss fight and create a top 5 list of hardest bosses for this challenge, all 4 of this guy's phases would be on that list. So let's break it down, starting with the first phase. The main problem here is it is complete RNG whether or not Lobber can actually deal with the eyeballs. Sometimes I can hit them all, sometimes 1 or 2 get through and you have to dodge, but other times all of them make it through and you're completely screwed. This is made even worse by the pumpkin guys. If one of them happens to drop their thing while there are eyeballs on the screen, you're almost guaranteed to take damage. And if you don't parry it, and they push the cart forward, then you're almost more guaranteed to take damage. I ended up coming up with a somewhat consistent strategy for this phase, using Miss Chalice. Whenever the guy shoots a batch of eyeballs, you shoot a batch of lobbers above your head. This causes the lobbers to bounce up and down a couple of times, so if any eyeballs happen to land right on you during that time, they'll be destroyed by one of the lobbers. Also, if a ghost ever decides to drop their thing while there are eyeballs, rather than trying to parry it, I dash backwards to parry the wheel on the other end of the cart. This disables parrying the cart for a time and allows the pink thing to pass right through. In Phase 2, you're once again completely at the mercy of the pumpkin guys. This is because the Lobber is completely incapable of dealing with them before it's too late. And you can't parry them because you'll end up taking contact damage to the conductor's head. If one of the pumpkin guys decides to drop a thing while you're trying to do something like move the cart, you're kind of completely screwed. Also, the conductor can deal contact damage when he's dead, which is honestly complete BS. In Phase 3, you have a bit of a coin toss on whether or not you'll be able to insta-kill one of the guys, but if you don't, it doesn't matter that much, because it turns out you can hide behind the lightning attack by just walking right up to the edge of the screen. The ghosts are a big issue, but at least in this phase, whether or not you can dodge them is based mostly on skill rather than luck. And even if you manage to survive all of that, you have the final phase, which is definitely the one least affected by the Lobber, but the train shoots so many of those tiny fireballs that it's super easy to lose track of one of them and choke. After getting nowhere with Miss Chalice for about an hour, I decided to switch back to Cuphead, because I thought the easier parries weren't quite worth sacrificing a hit point. Man, please tell me after that torturous fight we get an easy one. Oh no. After playing everyone's favorite minigame of resetting the fight till I get a good pattern of hearts, I go for the king dice. The first batch of mini bosses is definitely the most problematic. I had about 10 attempts where I just kept resetting after taking damage to the first mini boss, but none of them are that easy to do with Lobber, so I ended up accepting that I would take at least one hit of damage. And after that, the next two batches aren't that bad. The king dice himself wasn't as bad as I was expecting, because there's enough time in between each wave of cards to deal a decent amount of damage. As with most of my playthroughs, the real final boss is the king dice's card phase. If you're able to make it through that, the devil himself will be pretty easy, as is the case in this challenge. So that's going to end this video. I was originally planning on doing the DLC, but honestly I'm predicting every boss there to take about as long as the Phantom Express. So I decided that I'd rather spend my energy on this video than get burnt out trying to do the DLC. I'm not sure if I should do DLC Lobber only, or this same challenge with a different shot. Probably Spread, Twist Up, or Converge. Let me know if there's one you would be more interested in.